the media on this day because let's quiet down a little bit. We want to thank the media for being here. You know, these students who contacted me a couple weeks ago, they really appreciate the attention that the media is giving the case. We think it's a case of nationwide importance. My name is Eric Cardall, and I represent the Edina High School Young Conservatives Club. And the Young Conservatives Club, at one point, before the discrimination started occurring by the school against this club, had over 130 members, maybe 150 members, and now it's down just to a handful that are left. And I'm going to tell you that story, but first we're going to talk about the flag, the American flag. Hold up your flag. Yes. The American flag is a rallying point for all Americans, and the United States Congress has recognized this in the U.S. Flag Code. And what does the U.S. Flag Code mean? It means we honor our flag! Yeah! Now, Edina Public School has taken a policy that rather than honoring the flag, that they actually pre-approve protests. And so they have organized protests that are approved by the school. And then they require under the policy that the students respect the protesters, which is simply another way of dishonoring the flag. So the school district has a policy of dishonoring the flag. Now, the school district has other policies, and those policies include that each school-sponsored club must support the mission, values, and belief of the school, must act consistent with the school's policies. Even a non-school sponsored club does. And in this instance, the Young Conservatives Club was terminated, disbanded, their Group B site deleted because they were criticizing flag protesters. This was at the November 9th Veterans Day program. The school district pre-approved protesters to sit and kneel on the floor. Assistant principal was there, basically helping them comply with whatever pre-approval there was. And then when these clients, or my clients, the Young Conservative Club members, criticized the protesters, the principal would meet and shut down the club and basically disciplined them. Now these folks love the flag. We love the flag? Yeah! And we know they love the flag because the Young Conservative Club, when the school building was under reconstruction, the flags were removed from the classroom. And it was the Young Conservative Club that has petitioned peacefully to restore flags to the classrooms. Now, Edina High School has not yet restored those flags, but you hope they do. And my clients will continually to peacefully petition to restore flags to the classrooms. Further, for decades, the Edina High School has had USA Day. USA! 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 USA Day during Spirit Week. This was decades. And just last year, they stopped doing USA Day, and my clients, the Young Conservative Club, have peacefully petitioned the school to restore USA Day during Spirit Week. That hasn't been successful either. But we've done it peacefully and there's been no discipline. But when it came to the Veterans Day program on November 9th, the protesters were pre-approved by the school district. The school district knew about it. They approved it. They were at a row in the front of the bleachers. They knelt and sat on the floor, and the Veterans Day program went on. But when my clients had taken a video and posted it of the protesters and criticized the protesters, then the principal instructed the president, Nicholas Spades will speak to you, to shut down the club, that it be disbanded, and delete the Group B site. The reason why the Young Conservative Club is not a school-sponsored club or non-school-sponsored club or a student activity at Edina High School now, why it went from 150 members to 5 or 6, is because of the horrible discrimination that's occurred because my clients criticized the school policy. And that school policy is that we need to honor the flag, not dishonor the flag. They should be able to go to a classroom at Edina High School and say, we disrespect flag protesters. Now, that doesn't harm any student. It doesn't harm any protester. What it does is honor the flag. The flag! Why can't Edina High School understand that we rally around the flag? Immigrants, I'm a son of immigrants. There are immigrants here, there are sons of immigrants, and daughters of immigrants. We all need to honor the flag. It's one of the first things you learn for citizenship, is the flag. And the schools have a very important pedagogical purpose. and that is under the flag code, they must teach respect for the flag. When schools start sponsoring disrespecting the flag, that is accommodating protesters and requiring other students to respect the protesters, that's unlawful. That's preempted under the U.S. flag code. Now, with respect to my client's rights to get a classroom and to fundraise in the school, the federal government saw this coming. The federal government said, we need to protect students' rights to reserve a classroom, to fundraise, to access, so they passed the Federal Equal Access Act, which means that every student can go into any classroom reserved properly and speak about anything. Anything. Free speech, right? Free speech! Right, so even conservatives get to reserve a room at Edina High School. A conservative can reserve a room and talk about conservative things. Right? That's what conservatives do. We're not zoo animals. We're not creatures. We have rights. You can't dehumanize us at Edina High School. We are people. We are conservatives. We believe in the flag. We believe in America. We believe that we should rally around that flag. Now, the other claim, I haven't mentioned yet, is pretty obvious. And I think everyone knows this because it's basic free speech law. Everyone knows about free speech. Well, wait a minute. Not the Edina High School Board, right? The Edina High School Board doesn't understand free speech. Because the Edina High School Board thinks, now think how bad this is. You couldn't pass a civics test on this. The Edina High School Board believes that it can honor the First Amendment by honoring the speech of flag protesters. Oh, they're right. They're right. But the First Amendment also requires you to honor the free speech of those people who would disagree with the protesters, who would disrespect the protesters. So in other words, the protesters have free speech rights, but when they go on the internet and say, we disagree with the protesters, well, that's free speech rights too. So the grade that the school district gets, the school board, in adopting its policy, is an F. You all agree?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, good. All right, so we've got agreement on that. So at this point, I just want to summarize. This claim is about a set of school policies that ban the Young Conservative Club from reserving rooms, from fundraising, because it disagrees with the policy, and that is that policy that requires respect for flag protesters. And the school won't let them be a club because they do not disrespect for the flag. It's a messed up policy, but the point is the school district doesn't allow clubs who disagree with their policies. So they can't get a room, can't fundraise. That's a violation of the Equal Access Act, it's a violation of free speech rights, and it's unlawful under the U.S. flag code. At this point, I've spoken too much, and so I want to introduce the students who you've all come to meet, and they're just fabulous students, and they're fabulous leaders, really leaders for the future of America. So I'd like to introduce President Nicholas Spades.
Hello, my name is Nick Spades. I'm the president of the Young Conservative Club at Edina High School. YCC stands for a marketplace of ideas from multiple perspectives from students of all races, color, and creed. It is opposed to policies that do not allow for conservatives. Our club had over 130 students who were active and involved. We participated in social events as well as outreach and service projects to people in need. Recently, the Young Conservatives Club helped pack 25,488 meals for families in need overseas. We made it possible to feed 70 children a year. On November 13th, Principal Beaton disbanded the Young Conservatives Club for being intolerant of student protesters during a Veterans Day assembly at our school. While the audience was asked to stand and honor our fallen soldiers, 11 student protesters were allowed to be on the gym floor while all remaining students stood in bleachers. These protesters then sat down, made phone calls, and played loud music on their phones during the playing of taps, all while an assistant principal stood next to them and watched. The lack of respect for our servicemen and women and for our country, and the fact that the school administration allowed this disrespect with zero accountability is the reason we are here today. As president of the Young Conservative Club, I expect that every member of our group treat others with respect, kindness, tolerance, no matter what their political stance. I ask the same respect be reciprocated by our fellow students and especially our school administration. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce the Vice President of the Young Conservatives Club, Elizabeth Edina.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Ebner, and I'm the Vice President of the Young Conservatives. As a junior at Edina High School, I watched firsthand how our previous school administration allowed our school to become a political minefield before, during, and after the presidential election. In the days before the election, students wore clothing supporting their favorite candidates, but only conservative supporters were ridiculed, harassed, and threatened. I was hoping that this year, with the new administration and the election behind us, we would have a more unified student body. Instead, I'm embarrassed by the disrespect that is allowed to schools in our schools. I want to walk into school feeling equal, respected, and safe. I want to be taught how to think, not what to think. Will I be surrounded by bullies calling me horrible names? Those same people calling me a bad person just for my political viewpoint? And with the administration doing nothing about it? A good day at school should not be determined by the amount of harassment we have endured. We are okay agreeing to disagree. We want unity. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce a member of the Young Conservatives, Jasmine Edmond.
Hello, my name is Jasmine Edmond. I'm currently a sophomore at Edina High School and a current member of the Young Conservatives Club. This is my first year at the YCC, and I am impressed with the maturity of YCC students and their ongoing efforts and the desire to unify the student body. I am thankful and grateful for our freedom of speech in this country, thankful for conservative values, and hope that our efforts will pave the way for the next generation of high schoolers. I have been harassed, called ignorant, and felt demeaned by the fellow students, all for my conservative values. It seems that race and politics are woven throughout every aspect of Edina High School. From English class to American Sign Language, assemblies, and events, race and politics are clearly promoted. I ask why. I thought high school was a place where we learned how to think, not what to think. As a student representing Edina High School, I was appalled that a group was allowed to be disruptive and disrespectful while our high school honored fallen veterans. And please remember that these same veterans fought for their freedom to protest. And according to school policies, I am told I must respect the actions of these students and turn the other cheek. That's why I'm here today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Bice, and I am a proud parent of 3 kids, 2 that just graduated from Edina High School recently, 1 that's still a junior there. And I want to just stand up right now and applaud these students for being so brave. Seriously, I've gotten to know these kids, and what a great group of students. I'm proud of them for stepping up and defending our flag, respecting our veterans, and these students are proud of their conservative values. They have a passion for their beliefs, and yet they feel threatened to voice an opinion and are bullied in the classroom and in the hallways. I'd like to take a minute now and say that my child's well-being to the staff and faculty at Edina High School, the fact that my child or any student for that matter would feel threatened shows that my trust has been completely violated. I'm one of hundreds of parents who are tired of this, and the lawsuit filed today will provide incentive for the school to move forward toward positive change and a genuine tolerance. The goal of the Young Conservatives Club is to unite all Edina High School students and faculty and encourages mutual respect. I stand alongside these students and parents desiring positive improvement for the Edina School District. May God bless America. God bless
Thanks. Are there any questions the media has? Go ahead, sir.
When it came to questioning the protesters, were there any racial statements made or anything that the other side viewed as racist? And if so, did that violate any sort of school policies on that?
There were groupie references to, I think the criticism was something like they should, some of the students were immigrants, they should go home to their home country, Somalia, a picture of a hut. And I think some of the kids can't read. But those comments in the context of a high school I've been to public and private high schools. They're in some tough neighborhoods, and there's a lot worse language. It's pretty clear. Principal Beaton was interviewed by the student newspaper the day after, and he indicated that the reason that the club was disbanded was because they disrespected protesters. So it's awfully late in the day for us to come back and say it was something else. None of these clients that were disciplined, or my clients were disciplined. They weren't involved in those comments. The 4 students that aren't part of this group. They're not members of the club anymore, and so I can't speak for them. What I can speak for, and we don't even have a picture of those. I've never even seen what you might be referring to. You might have seen it, but what I know is that, and I know that those kind of comments occur in high school all the time. But the given reason for punishing the club was that the club was punished because they were criticizing protesters, and I think the quote was, they had disrespected the protesters. That's why I had to step in.
But isn't that what the principal is getting at?
Well, no, he was implementing the policies. You see their policies. The policies are, they can't have a club if they criticize school policies. And so their consistent criticism has been of the policy. So there's a context here. The school district removes the flags from the classroom. My clients want to put the flags back in the classroom. They stop USA Day during Spirit Week. My clients want to get USA Day back. The principal starts pre-approving protesters. The assistant principal was standing next to the students who were protesting, and my clients say, well, they disrespect that. They want the flag honored, not disrespected. So so Principal Beaton says, oh, there are 3 or 4 conservatives that said something like, well, if you don't like this country, then go home. All right, well, that's talk. That talk happens all the time in the high school. Principal Beaton knew it was a young conservative club, and he knew he had a problem on his flag policies, and I'm sure they were irritated because they wanted the flag respected when he apparently wants the flag protested. And so that's what the policy says. What he said was, students at Edina High School, this is the interview in the Zephyrus newspaper, can sit or sit, they don't have to stand during the Pledge of Allegiance, during the National Anthem, and during taps. And so here you have the principal of Edina High School knowing full well that America is on a mission to encourage children to honor and respect the flag, and he's saying in a student newspaper that they don't have to stand. But that's a school policy, right? It's not Principal Beaton who's making that up. The school board's adopted a policy saying they don't have to stand. So the problem right now is the Young Conservative Club knew at the beginning of the school year, even before this Veterans Day thing came up, that they were in hot water with the administration because they were criticizing school policies. Imagine, if you're criticizing school policy, then you're not popular. But they were criticizing the school policy that demanded that protesters be respected, the protesters of the flag be honored. And so they didn't even apply to be a school-sponsored club. If we apply to be a school-sponsored club this year, like we have in all past years, we know we'll get revoked because we don't support that school policy. So then they're a non-school sponsored club. Already they have less rights. They can't get the classrooms the same way, can't fundraise on campus. So as a non-sponsored school club, they have their Root Me site. And they do these things as a non-sponsored club. They tell them, restore the flags in the classroom, restore USA Today. And then they criticize the flag protesters, and he says, that's it, the non-sponsored school club is done. So now you have a situation, even with those remarks that you were mentioning, you have a situation where they can't, the people who weren't even involved in the remarks, they can't organize a club and get a classroom at the school for the purpose of criticizing school policy. Now, in my world, we want to engage these students and sort of educate them on how to discuss issues in sort of an agreeable way. You agree to disagree. And what the policy of Principal Beaton in the Edina School District is, if you disagree with the policy, boom, you're disbanded. Now, I suspect that a lot of other school student groups who disagree with school policies don't get disbanded. I imagine the Young Liberals Club, the other political clubs criticize school policies, but as far as Edina Public School is concerned, the only school group we know that's been disbanded for criticizing school policies is the Young Conservative Club. Now, you could say, well, maybe the school has a long list of clubs that's disbanded because they criticize school policies, but I've asked all of you a yes or no question. Has any other club been disbanded for criticizing school policies?
No.
No. Yeah, no. So and you can ask them the same questions. So if it's true, it is true that all students should respect other students. But as far as I know, the clients I'm representing, the Young Conservative Club, has always been respectful.
So another thing.
Speak actually to Antifa. I'm aware that there were threats made against young conservative students. I'm just curious, do you know if what steps Edina Public Schools has taken to determine who is making threats against the safety of these students?
Oh, right. I think when the principal disbanded the club for the purpose of conservative speech, he basically gave an okay to the students to harass these young conservative club members. And so for those adults here who think that it's okay for a school to ban an ideology, I think what happens is the students take a key. So like the students who don't like conservatives, well, they can be banned by the administration, then they can be basically banned or harassed or intimidated. There was a video that was disgusting, talking about sort of terminating the club. It was put up by a student, a Guy Fawkes mask, the British Parliament bomber, and it's available, I think, on the Powerline website. But and then there were horrible posts by students about these students. I linked to a couple, or not linked, I put copies of the text, a couple in the complaint. And they've had groups of students surround them in hallways in the commons area, intimidating them, telling them to shut down the club, basically. And so you have this sort of administrative-led mob mentality. And to me, it's the opposite of good pedagogy. A student, when they go to school, should feel safe, regardless of their sort of political views. And so these young conservative club members have a target on their back, and it's the administration's fault. If you look at the student newspaper, the Zephyrus, and I've quoted it, it says very specifically the Young Conservative Club was disciplined because it disrespected the protesters, which was consistent with the school policy. So Principal Beaton was working through a school policy. My clients think that school policy of disrespecting the flag and the way they've done it with the pre-approval of the protest and requiring other students to respect the protest is preempted by the U.S. Federal Code. It's led to a violation of the Equal Access Act and led to a violation of First Amendment rights. And so it's all kind of tidy. If you just start with the principal idea that my clients have a right to go to a classroom and say, we think the school policy regarding the flag, at least in this aspect of protest, is an error. We want to use a classroom for that purpose. And they're so far from getting a classroom for that purpose. They're not a Young Conservative Club school-sponsored club. They're not a Young Conservatives Club non-school sponsored club. They can't even have a group me site without threat of discipline. And so that's where we are.
So excuse me.
No, actually, has the district taken any steps to protect these students?
I'm sure you realize that some people are going to watch and are going to scoff at the idea that mostly white, middle class, upper middle class people are being oppressed in a high school. What would be your response to that?
Well, this goes again to my question. Are your clients saying that Edina Public High School has not taken...
Yeah.
Has Edina Public High School taken steps to defend your clients from harassment?
No. Opposite.
Yeah, they feel physically threatened. On the question of oppression, we're actually not. I said the video was disgusting.
No, I'm not talking about the video. I'm just talking about, like, you know, to argue that their beliefs are being oppressed at the school. I'm sure people of color and other more liberals would.
No, we're talking about my friend. We're talking about speech. So when the speech you see,
But I'm asking, how would you respond to those that say that they believe it's ridiculous that if you feel like you're being oppressed?
Because they don't have a club. The idea of a school-sponsored club is you get to meet friends and you get to meet in a classroom and you get to discuss ideas. And the Young Conservative Club invites people of all, as the president mentioned, invite people of all races and creeds and so forth. And so it's open, but they can't have their open forum. So the Young Liberals Club can have an open forum. So how could anyone of any sort of liberal or conservative sensibility say that it's good for the Edina High School to have a liberal club, but not have a conservative club? And so the way to rally around, I mean, we should have everyone in this park and everyone in this school district should agree with this lawsuit. I don't expect the Edina School Board to. but everyone should agree with it because that's about free speech, and everyone should agree that free speech respecting the flag or requiring respect for the flag or suggesting or recommending respect for the flag should be absolutely protected. I mean, my students have argued in many different forums that the flag should be honored. So why can't we just accept their authenticity? So I understand the question from the other side. Well, they're saying they're oppressed? No. We're not saying we're oppressed. What we're saying is that we can't speak out. We can't use the classrooms to speak out about the flag. And then at the very bottom of it, and I've talked to the students for a while, at the very bottom of it is this authentic feeling because of the alienation that's occurring at the school that the flag wouldn't be a bad place to rally. But they're not suggesting that students who protest the flag should be disciplined. But they don't think they should be disciplined for saying honoring the flag is the best way to unify the community.
Earlier you said that they would...
And disbanding a club, and I'd actually be curious about
Earlier you said the club was basically disciplined. What does basically discipline?
Oh, it's disbanded. So,
Besides them being disbanded, were they disciplined in any other way?
no, these students, my clients were not.
Can some of the students share some of the other ways that the politics are being weaved into the everyday classroom?
Well, no, we're not going to get into that. I'm just going to answer questions. Sorry about that. So any other questions?
What will you hope
Club disbanded if it wasn't officially sponsored?
Well, Principal Beaton had President Spades went into Principal Beaton's office and he was showing him the Antifa video, the disgusting video. I didn't say threatening, disgusting video. And in the disgusting video, when he showed it, Principal Beaton saw the group me site and he grabbed the phone. And so we were concerned about the privacy of the students and so forth. Grabbed the phone, looked at it, saw the group me site, I guess saw some of these comments we're talking about, and then told the president here the club was disbanded, you'd have to delete the group me site over threat of discipline. Now, your point about non-sponsored, the school goes so far in its policies that not only regulates school-sponsored clubs, but it regulates non-school sponsored clubs. School-sponsored clubs need to support the school's policies. And so at the beginning of the year, before they met me, they didn't apply to be a school-sponsored club because they knew they didn't support all the school's policies. They knew that it would be revoked eventually because they'd already felt the pressure. So then with respect to being a non-school sponsored club, Principal Beaton knew that he could take disciplinary action against them because the policies require even non-school sponsored clubs, non-school sponsored activities to be consistent with the school's mission and purpose. I think it says you can't do anything contrary to the best interest of the school. So Principal Beaton had the discretion under the school policies to make these decisions. What we're complaining about is are the policies. So even if you set aside everything that happened on Veterans Day, the disbanding and all that, my clients can't be a school-sponsored club at that high school because the policies say you have to support the school's mission, beliefs, and values. My clients do not agree with the school's flag policy to the extent that, one, the school appears to be pre-approving protests of flag assemblies, and two, it requires respect from students of the protesters, which they view as dishonoring the flag. My client, because they're not a school-sponsored club, can't get access to classrooms and can't fundraise on campus. Once the school policy is changed, according to my client's desires, and one reason being that's granted by the U.S. Flag Code, is that then they can be a school-sponsored club. But we cannot agree to be a school-sponsored club until either you can be a school-sponsored club and criticize policies, or they change the policy. So,
besides the lawsuit, is there any other way that the students plan to protest at the school or rally at the school besides the lawsuit? Do they plan anything else besides this?
Well, I think they're going to continue to work on restoring the flags in the U.S. In the classrooms, right? And then they'll continue to try to restore Spirit Week, or USA Today Spirit Week. And according to the parents I've talked to over the last 30 years, USA Day during Spirit Week was a big day. It was like a big day for flags. And it was terminated a year ago because the administration said it was too red, white, and blue. So I don't know what that means, but these people think that red, white, and blue is good.
How do they plan to get the flags back in the classrooms?
No, it's a peaceful talk to Principal Beaton and ask that they be restored. And Principal Beaton, to be fair, has talked about doing it. It just hasn't got done yet. And I'm not even sure if Principal Beaton has the authority on the Spirit Week. I don't know who makes that decision, but they're petitioning for that.
Did administration disband the club because of the tweets or because of the group me messages?
This is very important. The Zephyrus newspaper, do you work with them?
No.
Okay, the Zephyrus newspaper, or do you know about the newspaper?
Yes.
Okay, you know about it. So the Zephyrus newspaper had an interview with Principal Beaton, the number of our 21st issue, and it was a very thorough report. And the interview included a remark saying that the disrespect of the Young Conservative Club had gone too far. That's why I disciplined them.
Do you feel that the messages were disrespectful in the group me?
I've not seen it, so I'm just guessing. If you have shots, I'll look at it.
Yeah, I do have shots.
Okay, yeah. So were they? I don't know. I haven't seen them. If I looked at them, I'd say what I've been told about him is that kind of chatter occurs.
I mean, a lot of them were calling out Somali students, saying they should go back to their home country. That if they don't like it here, they should go back.
Yeah,
some would call them disparaging.
It was a private account, I guess. I don't know how GroupMe works, but I don't think they're 1/10 as bad as the Facebook postings I have in the complaint. But I don't know. My guess is that, like I was in high school, there are a lot of things that are said that maybe people should regret. But I do want to point out that, as I understand, those statements were not about specific students, right? So those statements were not about specific students.
Do you have any proof of the administration disbanding the club? Anything, any written documentation or anything, either in the suit or?
Yeah, Principal. Nicholas Spades was there for the conversation. Plus, Principal Beaton has basically said you can reapply.
Because the district says that they're not going to comment on whether the group was disbanded or not. So.
Right. So I gave you. This is very important.
Sure.
Principal Beaton said that they could reapply.
Okay.
And that would be their disbanded.
But there's no written documentation saying the group is disbanded. It's just an interaction.
Principal Beaton said delete the groupie site.
But again, not in writing, just in a conversation.
And then there's in writing.
USA!
There's
USA! USA! USA!